Hello, everybody. Welcome to this video. As you can see, I am joined by somebody to my right. And
Hi.
This is Julia. She's my bestest friend in the whole wide world. And she also likes books. And so we're sitting here.
I like books, but we're like on the opposite spectrum.
We do
of liking books.
we do read different books, but I think
But nevertheless,
as you can see from the title, I think that will prove to be beneficial for our discussion today. And today we're going to be talking about various hot takes that people and ourselves have in the book community, if you will. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself or say anything to the people?
I love Kylie. I don't know. No, I'm Julia. I am on TikTok, but I'm not active right now. But it's at I love folklore 444.
Okay, and same with her Instagram.
Yeah.
You should follow her.
But I do love books, and I love talking about books with Kylie, and we love spending lots of money on books.
Yeah, we definitely egg each other on to go to the bookstore and buy books and...
So I'm excited to hear your hot takes.
I'm excited to hear your hot takes.
I think we'll have some similar ones, but maybe there'll be some where we're like...
Right. Okay. So I guess without further ado, maybe we'll just get to talking. I thought this would be kind of like a good just sit and chat sort of format. And if the girls like it, then we can bring Miss Julia back and we can talk some more. Because
oh my gosh.
we just stay talking all the time.
We're talking.
So why not document it?
Yeah. Okay.
So
you can start.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with one that I would like to discuss first. And this is because we both do like this author.
Oh, okay.
And there are a lot of people out there that take issue with her. And that is Miss Sally Rooney. I've read all three of her books, and I do like her.
Same. I've read all three, and I also do like her.
But some people just really don't like her or have issue with the way, like, her characters are. And I guess a lot of people don't like the fact that her characters it's just a slew of miscommunication that happens throughout all of her books.
And they're very flawed.
Right. And I don't know. I don't want to seem too harsh, but I also feel like a lot of this I don't see a ton of this on YouTube necessarily, but on Book Talk.
Me too.
A lot of people really dislike her, or I'll see TikToks about Sally Rooney and how they get pissed off with their characters because they just need to talk to each other. Like, if they just talk to each other, everything would be fine.
But it's interesting because it's like that. Is that not the point of the book?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if they talked about it,
then there would be no book.
There would be no book.
Right.
And I think it's about the complexity of, like, the relationship. And it's interesting to me because I think sometimes some people really like flawed characters and sometimes people really dislike them.
Right.
But to me, why I like the books is like, yeah, of course, just communicate. But it's like, they are human beings, and as human beings, sometimes we do not communicate.
Right.
So it's like,
I feel like it's just not realistic to expect that people are going to communicate 100% effectively all of the time.
Right.
So it's like, I don't understand. Unless you are a perfect communicator in all aspects of your life, girl, stop coming for Miss Sally Rooney.
Right. I agree.
But also, in the same vein of Sally Rooney, thoughts on no quotation marks?
You know, it was really interesting because when I read Normal People, that was the first book I read. And I remember I started it like 10 pages in and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Like, no quotation marks. But then it was interesting because as I went through the book, I found that it made sense for the story and how each of her books are written. Like, I think it just is a constant, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, just
stream of consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think once you get into the book and you start to understand, like, the characters, you'll be able to tell, like, because I feel like people are always like, oh, I don't know who's speaking. Like, I don't know who's is it Connell or is it Marianne?
Right.
But it's like, I think you can tell once you're really in it.
And I also think it's fair to say that maybe she doesn't use quotation marks as a way to like kind of blur the lines between what we say and what we think. And also maybe to like blur the lines between characters and their own narratives and like
I agree.
stuff like that. Because I do think, at least in the case of normal people, maybe like she wants to almost, instead of making their dialogue separate, kind of make it one thing. Because I feel like the quotation marks maybe, I don't know, I feel like it's like functionally not, obviously like the grammar rules and everything, like that's what we know as just like what is supposed to be.
Right.
But I think there is like, I think there's something intentional about it.
I agree.
And I will say, this might surprise some people, but when I started reading Sally Rooney, Normal People was the first one that I read. And I actually didn't notice that she didn't write quotation marks when I first read it. And so when everyone was like, I couldn't read it, I had such a hard time, I was like, I literally, like, it didn't even register to me.
That's so interesting.
So I don't know if that's just me not paying attention or like me, I don't know what that means.
I'm honestly surprised it didn't bother me more than, like, I thought it would have bothered me more. But for some reason, I just was able to, like, be like, okay.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just her way of writing or whatever. And I actually think it makes the story much more complex and it, like, makes sense for each of the stories.
Yeah. So,
but
I don't know. This is coming from two people who really like Sally Rooney, so this is probably more biased.
Yeah. I also think, this is maybe a hot take in its own, but it's like, I think that, like, as book talk has been thriving and like conversations of books has been like a huge thing on the internet, it's like when an author gets really, really popular and Normal People is so beloved, like so beloved, I think people are just going to find any reason not to like said author. And in some ways I understand it, but in some ways I'm just like, if you just don't like it, you don't like it. And
that's okay.
But I don't think she's overrated. I don't think, like, I truly and honestly think she will be a very staple author in the literary world. Like, I think she's like, she's made waves.
I agree. I do agree.
That's just my opinion, but I like her. Conversations with Friends changed my life.
She's a Conversations with Friends girl, and I'm a Normal People girl.
Yeah.
Beautiful World obviously kind of slips through the cracks.
I think about it sometimes, though. I think about some quotes from it sometimes.
And we were both talking about how we're wanting to reread something of Sally Rooney.
Yeah.
I did just rewatch Normal People, the show, in like September.
That's frightening.
Hard time.
That's frightening. That's so frightening.
And I didn't tell anybody that I was rewatching it because I knew people would have gotten mad at me.
That's a little frightening.
But I think I do want to reread Beautiful World because I feel like I have a better perspective to read it now and like get it, because I remember the emails pissed me off. Yeah,
the emails or like what they talk about in the emails, or just like the emails in general.
The idea of the emails, like I don't know. I wasn't into it, but I feel like I could be into it if I were to come back to them. But,
I feel like I'd need to reread it too, but I think I want to reread Conversations with Friends because I just think about it a lot.
Yeah, you haven't read that one in a while, right? Because it feels like you read it recently because I would talk about it with you when I was reading it, but since then you hadn't read it like in like a year prior or something. I haven't read it since like 2021, I think. Yeah.
Because I read Normal People and then immediately read Conversations with Friends. But okay, so mine is kind of interesting because I think I'm contradicting myself, but this will make for good conversation.
Okay.
I don't think, this is my opinion.
Okay.
I think that not every book deserves a special edition. Okay. And it's interesting because I think that this comes more from, I'm starting to read a lot of like fantasy and like sometimes there are a lot of special editions for those kinds of books. And I've fallen into the trap once, and I think I've decided since then I will not be. With
the Fourth Wing things?
Yeah, with like Fourth Wing. Like I have 3 different editions of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, but I talk about this a lot with one of my friends where I'm like, it just feels like like a cop out. I don't know if it's
like they're just trying to, like a cash grab.
It's like a cash grab.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like to me. And I think it's just like,
I
why
mean,
do we need so many special editions? Like why do we need like different alternate endings for different books? Like,
okay,
it's so frustrating to me.
I do agree in the sense that I think it is a cash grab, and I think it's fully rooted in the publishing industry and them taking advantage of the fact that fantasy novels and series in particular have very loyal fan bases.
They do.
And I think anything with a loyal fan base, take BTS for example, or like anything big, Disney or I don't know,
like
One
anything.
Direction, Taylor Swift. There's a bunch of shit that you can get on these people, like merchandise or whatever. And I think anything to do, like there is kind of like a culture of obsession around these things, like specifically, like fucking Hunger Games and Harry Potter even, and just like series, shows, what have you. I think the people managing those things, or I don't know how it's structured, but like I think it's about money at the end of the day, which is sad, but
it is sad. But I also respect people who collect special editions. I get it. I'm also just thinking about now how like I also have the UK version of Normal People and like the US. But anyways, I think in some ways it just like reminds me of just how the internet is like causing a lot of like overconsumption. Yeah. And I think the special editions feeds into it. But also I respect that people have their special editions. As
if it's like something that like you personally really resonate with and love, like I'm not against it. Like I own a bunch of like different covers of different books that I really like. Right, of course. And so I think it's interesting in the sphere of maybe we can transition into how book talk has affected the publishing industry, if you will. And if we think book talk has been good or bad or both in terms of reviving kind of books as like reading as a hobby, but also how that has turned into kind of a lot of people are making parallels into like fast fashion and the publishing industry now and what the implications of that are.
It's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day with the content I like used to like to make on TikTok. I like had this moment one day where I was like, do I want to do this? Because I love talking about books and I thrive off of it. I like telling people the books I'm reading and like recommending books. But then I was like, but at what point, like you open TikTok and it's like people are talking about the same books over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then it causes you to be like there are so many books on my TBR, my physical TBR that I want to read, but I get so distracted from them because someone else is talking, like the fifth person on my TikTok feed is talking about a whole new one that just came out that I feel like I need to go buy and read. You know, so it's like, then I forget about like just other books that I like really want to read or other authors that don't get like pointed out, like, you know, and it just is like hard. I go back and forth and then I question whether or not like, am I just adding to this like dialogue of like, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
you
completely
don't do that.
It. Well, I think because I also used to make content on TikTok and I don't at the moment right now, because I think I had a frustration, like, and I've talked about this with you so many times. Like, I've gone back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, I am going to do this. I'm not going to do this because blah, 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 blah. And I think right now I feel frustrated with, to me, to talk about books in a meaningful, I think book talk is a good almost recommendation engine in the sense that like it creates a personalized algorithm for you and will feed you books, but in a sense like sorry, pardon my French, with HBO or Netflix or anything else with a recommendation engine behind it, I also think that like that in itself is a mechanism to feed like your consumption of things. And so the same goes for YouTube. YouTube isn't any better, but I do think it being more long form is like more conducive to like an actual meaningful, nuanced discussion.
Gonna say that, yeah.
But 'cause I will read the comments on TikTok and I'm like, I cannot believe people are just straight up saying things like this.
It's just really, I feel like now I get my book content from YouTube exclusively, which is shocking because I used to basically only get book content from TikTok and Book Talk and just like the craze of it all. But I just think it feels more meaningful. And I also feel like on TikTok there's almost this pressure to like the books that everyone else is liking versus I feel like the content on YouTube, it's like not similar. I don't know. People are more willing to. It's
completely different.
It is completely different and it's crazy to me.
It's such a stark difference.
So yeah, I don't know. It's like great because I think it's brought reading back and like a lot of people are now like really into books and different authors and such, and it's been great for a lot of authors whose books have made like a comeback and like that's great for them. But I think also it's just kind of oversaturated and for me, I just had a moment where I was like, am I really adding anything? On TikTok specifically.
That's what I felt as well.
Am I actually adding anything meaningful or am I just echoing what everyone else is saying and what purpose does that truly serve? Like, do we need another person talking about, I don't know, like some book?
Because it also
that
just
everyone loves. Didn't
feel like the TikToks that I was making, it didn't feel like there was a part of me in those TikToks. Like, it just felt like very, like what you were saying, very just like cut and paste, insert books that you've actually read here.
Right.
Whereas, like, I feel like I can actually talk and, I don't know, just be myself on like a YouTube video or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's like my frustration with TikTok. I do think TikTok has been good in some ways, but I think when you go too far into the rabbit hole, it becomes its own echo chamber of discussion.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, like, we need to go outside and touch grass for a second. Like, it's like, what the fuck are you guys saying? Like, this is insane.
I feel like I had moments where I also just like didn't actually know how I felt about a book. I was just like really like getting all this content and like taking it all in, and I wasn't even thinking like truly for myself, you know? And it's interesting because once I stopped making like my book talk content and I like kind of just like stopped watching a lot of book content, I was reading more.
Yeah.
And I think because like when you're creating content within the book talk realm, I feel like you're also like, I need to read 50 books in 1 month to like prove anything.
Right. It's just...
But it's like, that's so, like, that's insane.
It's wrong.
Like, that's so wrong. Like, that's not how that works. Like, you know, a lot of us have different lives and like different structures.
We've all got day jobs.
We've all got day jobs. Like, I don't have time to read 50 books in a month. But I think once you step away and you're like, I'm not doing this for any sort of content or... I'm just like reading because I want to read and I like to read. And maybe I'm going to read a popular book, but like I don't need to go on the internet and add discourse, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I just lost my complete train of thought.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
I was saying how I don't feel the need to like track how many books I'm reading.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I think like I remember what I was gonna say. I also think in specifically with Book Talk versus BookTube, the demographics are very different.
They're so different.
I think BookTube, like, and you know, I was born in 1999. We were both born in 1999, so we're like Gen Z, bordering Zillennial, if you will. And I will say, not to say that like young Gen Z is not on YouTube, but I do think YouTube is more of like an older Gen Z millennial
for sure
thing. I mean, I was on YouTube since like 2007.
Same.
Like, not me physically on camera, but like
consuming
I was watching fucking like
Bethany
the music
Moda.
videos, like everything. And so YouTube is something very
It's just like special to us.
It's our Facebook.
Yeah, it literally is. It is. Yes, it is.
So I think I just feel more, I don't know, an attachment to it, where with TikTok, it's just like, I feel like I don't relate to a lot of the things on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I forget that the people interacting with a lot of this content are like 16 years old.
Yeah, it's like really hard to grapple with the fact that that audience is so...
And so it's like, when I hear people... not that 16-year-olds can't make informed opinions. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I will say, as the audience veers younger, the level of nuance tends to diminish. And I'm like... So it's like, this thing is bad because it's bad, and because it's bad, you guys shouldn't consume it under any circumstances whatsoever.
Right.
And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Or the complete opposite. And that is like a big frustration that I have with the way people interact with each other on Book Talk.
Yeah, like specifically that.
It's just like
genre.
no nuance.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And not to just keep regurgitating what... I don't know, millennials say about, like, Gen Z, or, like, what Gen X or boomers are saying about us, but it's like, you guys, like, I don't know.
Everything is very black and white on TikTok. Versus I feel as though the content I consume on YouTube is very... It's not like that. I don't know. And I don't know. I could talk about this for days.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like we talk about...
Yeah.
The internet in the way that it exists now all the time.
And you know, if Book Talk works for people, it works for people, and I'm so happy for you, and like really like enjoy that, and it's helped the publishing industry a ton, I'm sure. But I think personally I've very much stepped away because it just really just consumed my life and consumed like my reading habits, and like I don't know.
It just hasn't...
a little much.
Hasn't benefited me more than it has hurt me.
Right.
At the end of the day. Because I deleted the TikTok app. I still have my account and everything, but I haven't been on it for, like, what, a month? I don't know. It's, like, off and on. I'm sure I'll get it again at some point, but right now, I'm not on it, and... I will say I do consume an Instagram reel, but my Reels algorithm is literally just animals and, like, monkeys wrapped in blankets and, like
eating a chicken nugget.
Capybaras and
Real
Housewives, Drag Race.
Like, it's just, and that's fun. And I love that for you.
And, like, to me, it's like, okay, this is all surface level. Like, I don't need to get into all of this.
No.
And I'm happy with watching a cute animal on Instagram Reels and then walking away, and I'm like, okay, that was it.
Exactly.
So,
and you're real for that.
Thank you.
I am always going to judge a book by its cover, and I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah, obviously.
If a book does not have a beautiful cover that intrigues me and has beautiful hues, and like I love the books with like the paintings on them. I know that's like sometimes a hot take that people are over those, but like I love them.
I do like them,
and I will always usually pick them up, like, and be like, oh, I should read this.
Right.
So yes, I am judging a book by its cover.
Yeah.
And I think that is okay.
Yeah, I would agree. It's in the same vein of like food and restaurants, and it's like, or are you going to judge by its presentation, or are you going to judge it by how it tastes?
Right.
But it's like, it's kind of all one thing.
Kind of both.
Yeah.
Like, why, like, I'm going to judge both.
Right. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like, you know, it's possible for a story to be good, but I think the book as, like, not to commodify the book, but a book as a product is the story and the way it's presented.
I agree.
And so it is important, in my opinion.
I just, like, in this day and age, you gotta work on your book covers. Like, it's gotta be good. Like, I don't know. Like, whether that means, like, you're unfortunately matching all the other ones that everyone loves, sure, or I don't know. Like, for example, the cover of Big Swiss, like that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
But it's not a great book.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Which I am.
Yeah.
I am taking as my opinion now, even though I haven't read it.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Like, so of course I'm going to pick up that book. Like, it has a beautiful cover. I don't know. So I do judge books by its covers. Jeez. And I will forever be doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if anybody's saying that they don't, that's just like,
you're lying.
I just don't believe you.
Like,
And what are you picking? What are you basing your like intrigue on? You know,
I guess
it's the cover. Like that is
the
thing.
It's the cover. It really is the cover.
I don't know.
And like, I know you don't really read that many romance books, and I sometimes do, and that happens all the time. Where I'm like, I am not going to read that book. That cover is hideous.
I will say,
and
like,
insane.
All love to the romance book community. But, like, for example, I really like Emily Henry's covers.
Beautiful.
I think those are better covers.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's still in the realm of, like, kind of how book covers are designed today. But it is, like, very Emily Henry. Like, the style.
Like, you know it's her book.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. The romance genre, respectfully, that you guys need help. Like, we need to work on that. Like, same with fantasy, too. I talk about this with my friend who loves fantasy books all the time. Like, she's always like, fantasy books need, like, to work on their covers. It's just not, I don't know.
What do you think about the ACOTAR covers?
I don't love them. I think, though, I don't know if you've ever seen the original covers.
I have, yes. Okay,
so
those are ugly.
Those are so ugly.
Yeah.
So the new covers, I think, are good. They're very simple. The icons on the front usually do match the content of that specific book. I guess the colors are nice because you can distinguish each book. But am I obsessed? No. Like, I think there could have been a lot more done.
Yeah.
I think, like, for such an iconic series. But I like the Fourth Wing cover.
That's a good cover.
That one
That's
just,
a good
like,
cover.
Tells you what you need to know. It's pretty. You'll put it on your bookshelf. It'll look nice. You won't feel too weird about it.
I kind of feel, and I haven't read any of the Fourth Wing books, and this isn't just, I'm not like trying to draw parallels to the stories or anything, but like what Fourth Wing is to like modern adult fantasy, like Fourth Wing cover is kind of giving like the Hunger Games cover vibes.
Yes, I agree.
Where it's like, it's very, like the Hunger Games covers are very Hunger Games.
They are.
And so.
And that works.
And it was like a part of the world that was in.
Yeah.
You know? And so sometimes I feel like it's just such a missed opportunity when it's like, you know, authors who are writing books, they'll make a mood board for the book that they're writing or something like that. And I feel like a cover is a way to share that sort of like ambiance or environment with the reader without having to be explicit about it in the story.
Right. I agree.
And so I think it's like a lost opportunity when people just do fucking like 2D drawings with like people's all this
love.
Is hateful. I'm being hateful, but like, and I sound like a 40-year-old man in a modern art museum, but it's like I could do that.
Right.
Like,
real seriously
it's
though,
just like,
yeah.
I don't know. I guess it sells.
Completely
but that's
agree
sad.
with you. I think it's a missed opportunity, and fantasy is having such like this huge moment right now that I think a lot of authors need to really be like paying more close attention to cover art and how that's going to translate in a few years. Like I think Fourth Wing will just always be a beloved
more
series.
Timeless.
It seriously, it does. And it's interesting because that publisher also came out with, I believe, I could be wrong, but also published Divine Rivals. I don't know if I've ever talked about that
you
book.
have, yeah.
I think that cover's great. It's very simple. You're getting the point. It's done. Like, I just think that sometimes it's too much. And so I think the romance genre and the fantasy genre, I think, need to work on that a bit, because I put down so many romance books because I'm like, I don't want to be seen with it.
Right.
Like, in full transparency, like, I don't, or I'll get it
Yeah.
on my Kindle, but then even on my Kindle, like,
With
the cover shows up.
Right. And you're like,
But, yeah, shout out to my girl, Emily Henry. because I think her covers beautiful. You know who they're by. They're not like too flashy. I think they work, and
right.
They
like
they work.
I do like Emily Henry covers because I think, like what I said before. But I will say, you say that fantasy and romance needs help, but I feel like contemporary fiction books have the same issue.
Yeah, they have the same issue. I think it's just like an all-around.
It's like an all newly published, like, because classics and like different editions of classics, like there's not really much to do about that because I don't know, like I don't really pay... It just like it because they're classics. I feel like you kind of already know about them outside of the novel and whatever. But with contemporary fiction, like honestly, I don't like the Normal People cover.
Yeah, no, I
like
don't
the
love
U.S.
it either.
Normal People cover. I think the UK one's a bit better actually.
I like the UK
but like
one,
the
I
the
agree.
line drawings and the faces, and it's like this isn't doing anything.
No,
like this is just a bunch
telling
of
me anything.
like it's color blocking and line art. Like babe.
I think that's why I love the ones with the paintings. Like, because I think the paintings that they use for the covers tell a lot about the story or make you think about what may be happening in that novel.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think we need to like start commissioning some really great graphic designers. And that's just that. I think we really need to like invest more money into creating these book covers. Honestly, one of my dream jobs. Like if I could go back in time. I mean, I could do it now if I wanted to, but
I mean, it's not too late.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pep talk. Okay. Another thing I would like to discuss is Tumblr poetry / Rupi Kaur / the Gabby Hanna of it all.
Oh my gosh. This is actually this is great.
What do you think?
Was I eating it up when I was also 15, actually maybe like 16 or something on Tumblr? Yes. Like I was eating up Milk and Honey. I actually still think I have my copy back in my childhood home. I don't think it did anything though. I think it like literally served nothing.
Right.
Like I think it just... I don't know much about poetry, and you are very well versed in this. And so, to me, it seemed like it was good poetry. And now looking back at it, even though I have slim to none, like just knowledge of really good poetry, I think it just was a bunch of words being thrown at a page and like put a pretty cover with like a vase and a flower and a hand or a naked woman and her like and you've got yourself a bestseller.
My question is, how many bitches got the work to Rupi Kaur's like poems tattooed
on them?
Yeah.
So many. And
you know what? Like all love, I feel bad for you.
Like I do. I'm so sorry. And I mean that with so much love. But it's very interesting because I'm not sure if you, like, maybe I'm just making this up in my head, but like, I think I kind of have an interesting POV with this because
you were really on Tumblr.
Because I was really on Tumblr, and that was just, that was literally everything. Like, it was like, it sounded like the Bible, what she was saying. Like, I'm talking about Rupi Kaur in this situation. Like, it sound like I wanted to relate to the things she was talking about. Which is insane. Like,
right, because I wasn't on Tumblr, really.
Oh my gosh.
But Julia was on She was on Tumblr.
Heavy.
But so I don't have that like perspective on how it took over the internet.
I mean, maybe it was like the specific side of Tumblr I was on, but it just was so romanticized. And like, I remember reading some of them and just trying so hard to like relate to these poems about breakups and heartbreak and like sex and like feeling I'm like a 16-year-old who's like on Tumblr. Do you know what I mean?
You know what?
Just, I don't know. Like
I think I understand because I also read those. I was like reading them being reposted on Pinterest and stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
And like I think it was because we were just young and we didn't know what those experiences actually felt like and what like obviously everyone has different individual experiences, but like to have that experience like put into words and we just like hadn't lived through those things. So we're like trying to understand through this thing that is accessible to us and then you get older and you're like, girl,
that didn't mean anything. Like, what you just said, like, means nothing. Like,
it's just
respectfully.
It's a sentence put on 5 lines and smacked on a fucking page.
But it's interesting because that was my understanding of poetry. How sad is that? Like, that's what I thought poetry was supposed to be. That's what I thought, like, like, whenever I would go to, like, a bookstore, I would, like, I didn't want to go to the poetry section because I was like, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of, like, words put together. Yeah. And then I read Bluets by Maggie Nelson and sobbed and was like, this is beautiful. Right. This is beautifully written poetry that's, like, very real and raw and honest. And I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. That, like, era of, and it's still happening. Yeah. The Gabby Hanna of it all is ridiculous to me. Like, I just think we need to take, like, books away from influencers. Like, stop writing books. Like,
yeah, I would actually have to agree. It's like, just because you have an audience doesn't mean you need to publish a book, babe. No. Like, and it's unfortunate that they have access to being able to publish a book and get a book deal more than, like, actual
people who want to write books.
Right, and have some sort of, like, literary merit in whatever way that may be. Yeah. But
it's just fake deep stuff.
No,
is that the right term for it? Like, I just think it's so. Like, it just you're just saying nothing.
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry.
It's just like, I feel like the point of books and poetry and whatever is to articulate things and experiences in a way that is unique to unique to the artist. And so, in the instance of Rupi Kaur, for example, I feel like it's like, is that, like, obviously you can read a Rupi Kaur poem and be like, that's probably Rupi Kaur, but it could also be some 14-year-old girl, like,
on Tumblr. Yeah.
And I don't know what that means, but, like, it's just, whereas, like, if you find an author, poetry or a novelist or whatever, and, like, that has a distinct style, I think that's what gives the, like, substance, this gives the words substance. And I don't know, I just find
it's very interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm kind of glad we're not in that, or maybe we are and I'm just not aware. But
right. I don't know what the teenagers are, like, reading though.
Normal people.
Okay. Yeah.
Or Colleen Hoover, I guess. I'm not sure.
I guess, what do you think of, I've never read a Colleen Hoover book and I don't plan on it.
Never have either. This actually goes with one of my points. Actually, no, it doesn't. Never mind. I don't know why I said that. Okay. But Colleen Hoover is very interesting to me. I go back and forth a lot where I think I am very harsh and, like, judgmental about it. And then I have moments where I'm just like, listen, if that's what you want to read, enjoy it. Right. Like, you know, but, and then it goes back to, like, do people just hate her now because she's so popular? So it's like, I go back and forth a lot about it. I personally just don't think I'd ever read any of her books. I don't think that they're made for a reader like me. Like, and I don't mean that in, like, a I'm different kind of way. I just mean, like, I just don't think that's my kind of book. Yeah. I've also just read a lot of things that I don't love that she talks about in her books. I think sometimes people write these romance books with so many trigger warnings, and I'm like, why? Yeah. Like, why? Right. Yeah. What purpose does it actually serve?
Is it integral to the plot? Right. Is this necessary? Like, what are you trying to say, girl?
Right. Like, I don't really want to read a book with 600 trigger warnings. Yeah. That's an exaggeration. Yeah. But, so I don't know. I think I still, at least, like, once or twice a day, if I'm out and about, I'll see someone holding a Colleen Hoover book. Like, she's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like,
she's here.
She's pumping those books out like nobody's goddamn
She's getting
business.
her coin.
Like, she's getting her coin. And it's just not for me. And I don't think it ever will be. And if it's for you, that's fine. Right. It's just not for me.
Right. I mean, it's not for me either. Right. I really don't have opinions on what people choose to consume for themselves. Because ultimately, like, it just doesn't affect me. And, like, everyone has a right to consume whatever they want within reason, obviously. What is legal. But, like, I don't know. But I do, like, people come ready to throw hands, either to fight and like beat down any Colleen Hoover stands, or the other way around. People are like, you guys are so pretentious, like blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, guys, I think we're missing the point. Maybe this isn't about Colleen Hoover at all. Maybe it's like you just can't let people have opinions that are different than your own.
But this also goes back to the book talk conversation we were having. I think book talk has fueled this like back and forth more than anything like ever.
Yeah.
Like I think it has caused people to become so obsessed with Colleen Hoover to the point where it's like, if you don't read it, I'm going to judge you. But then the people who are like, if you do read it, I'm going to judge you. It's just like a constant fight. And it's like, I don't think this would be as much of a conversation if book talk did not.
No, definitely not.
It just amplifies it and makes people think that like their opinion is Bible. And like, if you disagree with it, like you don't know what, like, it's just, it's too much. It's too much.
I think also the thing with book talk and just TikTok in general is that somebody can gain an audience so quickly and such a big audience at that. And I feel like people are misconstruing having a big audience and being a credible person. And it's like, just like, you know, we could take the US government as an example of that. So it's just like, you know, obviously it's like not that big of a deal. Like Colleen Hoover isn't, I mean, I hope not hurting anybody, like not her herself, but like her books and whatever. But like, I don't know. It's just, I think, and maybe this is reductive of me to say, but like, I really do think it's just like, just these youngins on TikTok acting like they know everything. Yeah. And I like forget that these are the people behind their usernames. And it's like, sometimes I will read comments on TikTok and be like, this is a child.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
yeah.
And
they're getting their opinions and their what they believe are facts, like from a TikTok that they just watched right before commenting that, you
like,
know?
Guys, like, I don't know. I have, like, we talk about TikTok and all the time. Yeah. As to like, what, if you can like educate yourself from TikTok and like whatever, which is a whole separate discussion that I don't really feel like getting into.
Yeah, that could be a whole other hour-long
conversation.
Video. Yeah. It's just,
But
anyways, it's just, if you read Colleen Hoover, happy for you. Will not be my tea.
Right. And it won't be mine either.
And you know, I'm gonna bring one of mine up.
Okay.
Because it goes with this whole like very popular books and such. Why are we reading A Little Life?
Did you write that? I wrote A Little Life Discourse.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
I just...
Quote, in parentheses, trauma porn.
Yes, it literally is. Yeah. I have never read it. I will not be reading it. I respect you if it is one of your favorite books, but is it actually your favorite book? Or are you just being told that it is? Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you want it to be, it's like a symbol more than it actually is something that you resonate with.
Yes. I like went to a bookstore the other day and I was overhearing these like two women having a conversation about it. And this woman was like, yeah, it's just, you know, there's so many like trigger warnings but I'm still gonna read it. Like, I'm still gonna read it.
Okay.
I've heard it like makes you absolutely sob. One of my friends said that she like threw up reading it, but I'm still gonna read it. And I'm like,
why though?
Why?
Like, do you have to do that? Like who's holding the gun to your head?
Why are we like who's holding the gun to your head? Why are we obsessed with this like trauma porn?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I'm not saying that like we can't read books about very difficult topics and with that have trigger warnings and such, but like from what I've heard, like this book is just...
It's insane.
It's insane.
I mean, in my case, I read a third of A Little Life and DNF'd it. And then maybe 8 months later, just read the whole plot synopsis on Wikipedia. Because I was like, I'm never going to finish this. I'm just going to see what happens. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit. And a lot of people that I talk to, I explain my experience with it where I'm like, I just didn't want to go any further. And whatever. I was like, it just seemed like it was getting a lot and I just didn't feel like finishing it. people are like, yeah, but it is a really hard plot, but the writing is so good.
Right.
And I'm not trying to discredit Hanya Yanagihara's writing. I'm not trying to discredit it, but it's like, there's so much good writing out there. It's like, do I have to spend, 800 pages? Like,
right.
And then there's a whole other separate discourse with A Little Life saying how, Hanya Yanagihara is like not like the main character is a queer man and he experiences all this trauma and abuse throughout his entire life and battles this depression. I feel like that is also like why people are saying it's kind of trauma porny, because it's like, why are you writing about queer? I don't know what she identifies as, but I'm just like, why would you like, I think people have issue with the fact that she is writing such a traumatic story from the experience of the kind of person that she just will never like have the knowledge of
or experience.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I personally will never read it. And it's interesting coming from you also, because you read a lot of sad books. You read a lot of books with like very serious matters and like all of that. But so I remember when you said that you couldn't even read it, I was like, okay. It's just, this is not something I would like to mess with.
I definitely bought the book because everyone else was reading 100%. It, and I was like, let me see what this is all about. And then I was like, it just like it didn't sit right with me. Right. And to me, good writing style isn't enough for me to go through a book, because I know there are other authors out there with good writing style that don't have the same sort of like plot or narrative that is like just traumatizing. And it goes into, and this can be parallel to like Euphoria, for example. That's very trauma porny and almost like there's a lot of criticism of Sam Levinson, like the creator of Euphoria, just like throwing all this like abuse in there for his own like, I don't know, just like to like in a like kind of pleasurable way, in a weird fucked up way. So I don't think it's exactly the same for A Little Life, but I think there's like also something there. And I also think there is something about how people want to say they have read it and like almost get through all of that and be like, I read that.
It. That's how I felt when I left the bookstore that day. Like, that person is just going to read that, put themselves through that so that they can say, I read this book and I experienced all the traumatic things that happened in it. Or not experienced, but I read about it and I got through it or whatever. Right. And I just, like, that makes no sense to me.
It's like weirdly experienced by like proxy or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
That book is never going to be something that I read, and that is okay.
Yeah.
With me.
And that's the tea.
And that's that. Okay, so I have another one. And I think this one we both agree on. And we both can go on and on about. And it goes almost back to Sally Rooney. And it's that I love flawed characters.
Yeah.
And I think that flawed characters in books are important. And it's interesting because I think there are a lot of people that read books like Sally Rooney's books, or I don't know, there's so many. I've read so many with like flawed characters. And they hate that book because they're like, the character is so awful, or they're so annoying. Or
even like Otessa Moshfegh or something like that.
They're insane. And it's like, yes, but that is the point of the book.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I love a flawed character. I think there's something so earnest and honest about an author writing about someone who is not a great person. They're so incredibly flawed. They suck at communicating. They are kind of a bad person at times. Like, I think it's interesting because I go back and forth with the kind of books I read. Like, I'll read a romance book where there's like a happy ending and everything's great. And like, yeah, the character has bad moments, but at the end of the day, they're a great person. Or like in fantasy, like they're a hero. Like, but then I'll go back to reading like Vladimir by Julie May Jonas, or is it Jones? I don't remember. think it's Jonas.
Julia May Jonas.
That main character is incredibly flawed, but I found her so fascinating, and I found a lot of what she was going through very relatable. And like, I don't know. Like, I think I respect that some people don't want to read about flawed characters, but I think that I just think that's what any form of art needs.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
Life is not like perfect, and we're not all perfect human beings. We're also incredibly flawed. Yeah. And like, I just always think about, like, I always say that I can relate to Frances from Conversations with Friends, and sometimes that really bothers people, and they're like, that's crazy. Why would you relate to her? She's kind of a bad person. And I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of real. Like, she's kind of real for how she was feeling or what she was doing, or her inner monologue and her, just narration and such. Like, I just love a flawed character.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I think it's like, I don't know.
I can't read about someone who's perfect.
No, because that's not real.
It's not real.
It's not real.
And I'm just like, I cannot relate. I can't, and simply I cannot relate. Like, I just really can't. So
unbelievable kind of relationships and characters. Not even like this, not to do with fantasy. Like, it doesn't have to be rooted in reality, but like somebody that I just like, something that's not believable, or like a person that I'm like, no, this is not like that, or a relationship that I'm like, this doesn't exist. Like, a lot of, I don't know, just I just find it, I can't read those things. I have a really hard time. I think it's because I don't like getting my hopes up that like something just genuinely good and not fraught with flaws exists, because I just like, I am like, I don't know. This isn't real. Like, I don't like it, because it just feels like it's leading me on almost. And so I'm like, I don't even want to, like, I can't even get into this.
I think all of my favorite books, they're all like flawed main characters.
Yeah.
Like, even Fourth Wing, like, I talk about it all the time with people that I love that book so much, because most fantasy books go, here's a main character. She's good at everything. She can fight off anything. She can do anything. But, like, the main girl in Fourth Wing is, like, not like that. She, like, is not good at
I do
most
need to
things.
read that this winter. I think that will be a good one for, like, February or next month.
But
February is next month, but...
scary. But, yeah, I think we both really relate to that. Like, I like a fucked up... I don't know if you cuss on this channel, but I like a really messed up, like... Yeah. I don't know if I can read a book. Like, I do struggle sometimes with, like, should I read an Ottessa Moshfegh book? Because very, very mentally ill women, I'm like, oof. Like, sometimes I'm like, but for the most part, like, I think, I don't know. I just really do enjoy reading about those kinds of characters.
I'm trying to look at my shelf right now. Yeah, like, I guess Ottessa Moshfegh, I don't dislike Ottessa Moshfegh. I wouldn't say she's, like, my number one favorite. I do think that she kind of, I don't know. Ottessa Moshfegh can be an entirely different conversation. And, like, one of our other friends, Caitlin, she is a stan. Like, her favorite book is Eileen, and she has her own opinions about it, which I totally see. But, like, for myself, and I know some other people have talked about it, it's like, are you flawed to the point where it's like, I don't know, like, I can't even, like, articulate it right now, but
I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's like, are you just actually just being a really bad person? Like, is that what you're talking about?
It's kind of like, obviously the main characters of her books are, like, not good people, and that's like, you know what? Okay, this is what it is. It's like, she is writing from the perspective of her fucked up characters, and they're thinking and saying all these fucked up things. Does that make it okay to write about those things if you're establishing your character as being fucked up, but you're saying, like, racist things or like, I don't know, insensitive things about, like, eating disorders or addiction and abuse, and it's like, I think sometimes, like, yeah, like, it's okay to have, like, characters that are fucked up, but it's like, is this too much?
Yeah, I
kind
get
of
that.
thing.
That's where like I sometimes I'm like, okay, this is a bit much.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is really like a character I want to be reading about or whatever. But yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely like a weird
There's a line
yeah,
between like what feels comfortable and what doesn't.
Yeah. See, I know, and this could be a whole other conversation, but I know you loved boy parts. But
you didn't
really
like
struggled with the main character.
Ah, that's interesting.
But it was interesting because, like, I don't feel like she's the craziest main character I've ever read about. Like, but it was very hard for me because it was very intense.
It was very intense.
You know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I completely forgot about that book. And I really did like boy parts. And I'm kind of lukewarm about Otessa Moshfegh. But they have similar kind of stories in the way that they're both pretty extreme and just like fucked up, depressed women do bad things kind of thing.
You need to read The Guest by Emma Cline.
I know.
Because that main character, like, she's a fucked up woman, but you almost are rooting for her because you're like, she's kind of an awful person, but you're like,
okay.
I don't want to root for you.
That's interesting because with boy parts, I didn't like her.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is sad, but I was like, really, I was
intrigued.
Like, I was in on the story.
I was very in on the story. I think it just was hard for me.
Yeah.
I think
it's intense. Yeah.
Yeah, struggle a lot with like over sexualization and on that. But I know, like, I'm sure if I would have finished reading it, I would have been like, listen, did I love the main character? No, she's crazy, but like, great book, you know, great topic.
I wonder why I like really like that.
I don't know.
Versus like why I feel differently about Otessa Moshfegh.
It was truly kind of shocking to me because, like I said, like I feel like I've read some pretty crazy perspectives, but I
Boy
just
Parts
was
is
struggling with it a lot. I do want to read her newest book, but anyways, I love a flawed character.
Yeah, I do too. And now I'm kind of hung up. I'm like, what do I have? What is wrong with Moshfegh that I don't feel is wrong with Eliza Clark?
I don't know. That is actually really interesting.
And so,
because they are compared to all the time.
I think, I don't know. I read Boy Parts like well over a year ago. So I don't like remember a lot of like the exact like perspective. And I think maybe there's just more criticism around Moshfegh that I've like listened to and not so much about Eliza Clark because she isn't as big. That has just like infiltrated me or something. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, you'll have to think about it.
Just like sit
and
on
get back
it,
to us.
Ponder, you know, critical thinking.
Yeah, I do need to read an Otessa Moshfegh book. I just need to decide which one.
Yeah, I mean, I've only read My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Eileen, so
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but maybe that's where we end.
Maybe this is where we end, and you know, I will end it with this.
Okay.
I am Frances from Conversations with Friends, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I am not a perfect human being.
Your truth, Mama.
And she is struggling, and guess what? So am I.
Yeah.
So,
aren't we all? I would say I'm Marianne coded.
You're definitely Marianne coded. Yeah. And it's like, am I like really shouting that from the rooftops? Maybe not, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, there isn't.
Maybe this whole video is just we love Sally Rooney. Yeah. We're Sally Rooney fangirls.
She's found her way.
I really, really enjoy her books.
The girls on antidepressants, like, they just love her because it's like, we are her.
We are her. She is us.
She is us. We are them. Yeah. Them as in Marianne,
that's someone
Frances,
that is so popular that I think I'll just
I stand by it.
I don't care.
I don't care that she's popular and like mainstream or whatever. Like,
yeah. But we're also, sorry, I know we were going to end this, but we're also not people who, like, I have so many people in my life that don't like Sally Rooney and have read Sally Rooney books and don't like them. And they say they don't like them. And I'm not offended. Like, I'm like, that is fine. That is okay. Like,
normalize not being offended when somebody else has a different opinion than you.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, if you don't like Sally Rooney, you don't like Sally Rooney.
Right, and that's your tea,
that's
and my
that.
tea's my tea, and like, let's sip our respective teas and live a happy life.
And that's the point of this video.
So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, or maybe listening at this rate. There wasn't a lot of visual appeal here, but if you enjoyed us chatting, we're girls that chat all the time, so I'm going to force her to come back.
Yeah.
And we could talk about other things. So
I always read Kylie's favorite books. Like, I'm notorious for that. Like, I've read so many of her favorite books because I love hearing my friends like talk about them, and then I want to read them.
Right.
So I'm sure I could come back and add some discourse to some of your favorite books.
Okay, yeah. No, next one is me and Julia getting in a fight.
Literally just getting into a fight about your favorite books.
Yeah, and I'm
me.
like, okay, girl.
No.
No. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll do this again. But, like, can you give us some, like, affirmation?
Mm-hmm.
I said that was such, like,
give
a
us some
vocal fry.
affirmation.
We're both from Southern California,
Yeah,
so I don't know if
sometimes
that
it comes out
in our voices. But, yeah. Anyways.
Let me know if you want me back. If you don't, that's okay.
Follow her at I Love Folklore 444.
Sure.
She's on TikTok and she's
not posting.
She's not posting, but she's also on IG, and harass her to get her to start posting.
Yeah, maybe I'll start posting
again.
on Instagram.
But yeah, thank you so much for watching.
And
And we'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.